Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to the Grace for Me video blog. I am your host, Eva Queen, and I'm so glad you tuned back in to continue to be in this journey with me. This journey of self-discovery, confession, healing, and so yeah, let's get into it. So today has been a good day. I'm trying to build on every every progress, right? Every step of progress I move toward, I'm trying to build on that. And today I had an interesting confrontation. I'm gonna call it that, a self-confrontation. Do you guys ever confront yourself? Some of us are good at confronting other people, right? We can show them what they got. But self-confrontation is good. Self-confrontation helps us to grow. When we can challenge our own thoughts, when we can challenge our own perceptions, it makes us better. And so I think I started feeling good about where I'm headed, and feeling good about where I am emotionally and spiritually. And I'm still feeling good. I'm not saying that that's somehow stopped, but I ran into someone today, and this person very gently, and I think well intended, decided to remind me of something that I think is probably viewed from their perspective as somewhat of a personality flaw in me. Now, whenever that happens, whenever you experience a critique or somebody telling you how they experience you, it can sometimes, I'm changing that up, not always, it can sometimes push you or push me. Gotta remember that, right, guys? I'm always talking about me. It's not you. When I experience a critique, or when someone offers me an opinion about me, it can sometimes push me into a space where I become too self-critical. Okay? Real talk. I do that. I know none of you do that, but I do that. And that's not the fault of the person who's offering a critique or an opinion. What that is a result of many, many years of trauma. Okay? And so we don't all know each other, right? We're learning each other, especially, if somebody didn't grow up with you, and you don't have years and years and years of experience. We don't know each other. We're learning each other. And so those kinds of things are good. Those interactions are good. But what happened is I went home and I just perseverated on that interaction, right? I just kept going it over and over and over and over. Started being a loop in my brain. And I started trying to give it a lens that I felt like I could use to make that interaction helpful. And I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to make interactions, whether they feel good or not, I'm trying to make them helpful for me. And so I immediately went to the Word, which is what I usually do. My kids call me BibleMom.com. But I immediately went to the Word and I started looking at Scripture, and I started with one scripture that talks about to the pure in Titus, to the pure, all things are pure. Just kind of trying to make my mind think of the right way to perceive what was being shared with me. And then, I felt like, that doesn't really make me feel better. And then I went to, I found an amazing study that I'm going to probably continue with John Piper in the book of Romans 7 and 8, which is also a great place to be because it really helps you with self-confrontation. So I highly recommend that, Romans 7 and 8. But then I picked up another one of my devotionals, and I'm going to read to you. Can I read to you? You okay with that? You're here. You might as well, right? So I'm going to read to you an excerpt from a devotional by Priscilla Shirer. And it is in her Awaken devotional. And this is day 16. And I'm just going to read the first paragraph, and then I'll share my thoughts on that. So the scripture that she references is 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 9. And it says, "What no eye has seen, nor ear heard, and no human heart has conceived, God has prepared these things for those who love him." And the paragraph says, "Your view," and when I thought about that, I said, God, not just my view, but even the person who shared that critique with me, your view, no matter how breathtaking and beautiful or how grim and dismal, is not the full scope of reality. I mean, just that part alone was helpful, because what I was able to do right away, quick, was to separate what was shared with me, again, I think out of kindness and out of love. I don't think there was any malice of forethought or anything like that. But I was able to separate it because it's not the full scope of the reality of who I am. It's not, right? It's just a tiny part. Whatever is seen, all that can be measured or documented or quantified with the 5 physical senses or through the lens of your current emotional state. I felt like that should have said, comma, Eva. Is not all that is meant to be seen, right? The physical cannot fully grasp the comprehensiveness of the spiritual. Priscilla Shirer know how to say a word, don't she? God's work is behind the scenes. And that really resonated with me because there is so much happening inside of me, and probably inside of you too, behind the scenes. It's work that we can't see. Thank God it is work that we can feel, right? And when I say feel, I don't necessarily mean with the sense of touch. I mean deep down in our inner man, we can sense that the Father is doing something. We can sense that we're shifting, that things are moving, that ideologies are shifting, and we are coming into alignment with God and with the plan of God for our lives. At least I can. I can feel that happening. God's work is behind the scenes beyond obvious readouts. So no matter what people might think they're reading from you, and even even what you might imagine that you are um, putting out, or the frequencies that you might be putting out, or people might be perceiving that they're receiving from you, if we limit the scope of our hopefulness to what's immediately visible, we'll get an inaccurate reading on any scenario we're seeking to evaluate. Believers must live by faith, by believing what they cannot see. And so the reason why that paragraph and this notion means so much to me today, and I hope you can take this with you also, as we are moving toward, as I am moving toward this new version of Eva Queen, the one that's entering into middle life, right? Because that's the truth. I'm entering into the mid stages of my life in my 60s. I'm not elderly yet, but I'm not young anymore. I'm sort of in the middle stages. And as I enter this phase, and when I think about my desire to want to make good on the promises that I've made to God, when I think about the promises I've made to myself, when I think about where I want to be 1 year, 3 years, 5 years down the road, I know that it is going to be very, very important that I not focus on what I can see, that I not focus on what I might hear, right? Because anything that can be impacted, to me, in my thinking, anything that can be manipulated or impacted by the five senses is subject to infiltration of the enemy. And by the enemy, I mean the devil. I also mean the devil that can be my own doing, right? But I also know that I have a spiritual adversary called the devil. And so I'm not one of those Christians who think he's not real, because he is. But I have to remember that I can't focus on those things that I can hear or see or touch. I can't make those things mean more or have a louder voice than what I know God is doing on the inside, behind the scenes, right? And so I thank God that He was able to arrest what would have, I'm being honest, that statement or that interaction in the past would have sent me into a bit of a tailspin. Like, wow, are you making progress? Girl, are you moving in the right direction? And again, not because of the other person. This is all me. This is all perception. This is all miscue that I am learning to control, right? And so I love that. I love that 1 Corinthians 2 and 9, right? That I have not seen, ears have not heard. Don't even depend on that, girl, because it's happening behind the scenes, right? It hasn't even entered into the heart of man, the things that God has prepared for those of us who love Him. And so I told you, I'm in love with Jesus. I am still in love with Jesus. I'm falling more and more in love with Jesus every single day. And so I am going to hold fast to that today. I am going to remember that, okay, thank you for sharing. And I'm sorry that maybe whoever I am sometimes doesn't necessarily jive with whoever you are. But I'm so, so thankful for who I am. I'm so grateful for what I am today because I know where I came from. I know the journey, the many, many years of journeying through this life. And I know that because of Jesus living inside of me, um, and because I give him full throne access, right? He can run the thing. I know that ultimately you might not be able to see it now. I might not be able to see it now, but he is working behind the scenes and he is preparing something so absolutely marvelous for me. And so I'm going to take that with me today. And I'm going to apply my grace for me. I'm going to apply that notion that I plan to live with and practice and rehearse in my mind every day from now until forever. That there is grace for me, and that um, I can always fall back on what I know. And what I know is that I walk by faith and not sight. So that's it. That's what I have for today. I hope that that is something that might help you too. But if not, as always, pray for your girl. Miss out here in these grace streets, understanding and knowing that there's always grace for me. Have a good day, guys. I will see you next time on Grace for Me.